I have had a serious interest in UFOs since childhood, and in all of my research I believe the following are the most famous. Number 1. The Battle for Los Angeles, 1942. Early morning on February the 2nd, 1942, air raid sirens were heard in the Los Angeles area. Sightings of a large UFO would be made in Culver City and Santa Monica, and the military proceeded to fire at it. Everyone who looked up was shocked by the sight of a giant UFO sitting above their city. The large UFO moved into other areas, and the view of the object became better as it hovered in the sky and was pale orange. They sent fighter planes in groups to approach it and then turn away. They were shooting at it, but it had no effect. Number 2. Foo Fighters. No, not the rock band. This is 1944. The first sightings occurred in November 1944 when pilots flying over Germany by night reported seeing fast-moving, round, glowing objects following their aircraft. The objects were variously described as fiery and glowing red, white or orange. Some pilots reported that they seemed to toy with the aircraft, making wild turns before simply vanishing. Pilots and aircrew reported that the objects flew formation with their aircraft and behaved as if under intelligent control, but never displayed hostile behaviour. However, they could not be outmanoeuvred or shot down. The phenomenon was so widespread that the lights earned a name. In the European Theatre of Operations, they were called Foo Fighters. Number 3. Roswell, 1947. Probably the most well-known and publicised event about a UFO crashing in the desert in New Mexico in 1947. The newspaper stated it was a UFO crash, but once the military stepped in, they denied it was a UFO and said it was a weather balloon. There were apparently dead and injured aliens at the crash site, but to this day the military continues to cover up the truth. Number 4. Betty and Barney Hill, 1961. On September the 19th, 1961, Betty and Barney Hill of New Hampshire were returning home from a trip to Canada when they spotted a brightly lit cigar-shaped craft in the sky that seemed to be coming towards them. The Hills stopped their car and looked at the flying object through binoculars, claiming to see several figures in the windows of the spacecraft that did not appear to be human. Afraid, the Hills got into their car and kept driving, only to find that they were a considerable distance from the incident and had lost 2 hours. For many years they had nightmarish dreams, and it was only under hypnosis that they realised they could recall their experience and found they had been abducted by aliens. Number 5. Travis Walton, 1975. Travis Walton was an American logger who was abducted by a UFO on November the 5th, 1975 while working with a logging crew in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest in Arizona. After work, Walton and his fellow loggers were returning to town and witnessed a bright light and proceeded to follow it, and what they observed was a UFO. Walton got out of his truck, and as he approached the spaceship, he was lifted off of the ground into the ship. His abduction was observed by his fellow workers, and when they returned to town to report what they had witnessed, they were not believed and accused of murdering him. Walton reappeared after a 5-day search and reported that it had been taken into a spaceship. Number 6. Tehran UFO Incident, 1976. In 1976, the Iran military observed both a radar and visual sighting of strange objects on radar over Tehran, the capital of Iran, during the early morning hours of the 19th of September 1976. During the incident, 2 F-4 Phantom II jet interceptors took off to observe the objects. One of the pilots, Captain Mohammed Reza Azakani, flew closer and fired at the UFOs, only to find that his jet had suddenly lost all instrumentation and communications capabilities, prompting Azakani to break off the intended intercept and turn back. As soon as he moved away from the objects, his systems resumed functioning. Number 7. Rendlesham Forest, 1980. Rendlesham Forest is situated in Suffolk, England. Nearby was a NATO Air Force base, and on duty were 2 USAF security patrolmen, Sergeant James Penniston and Sergeant Bud Steffens, who had observed strange lights. Fearing a security breach, they proceeded to enter the forest for further inspection and came upon an object which was described as being metallic in appearance and triangular in shape, and it illuminated the entire forest with a white light and had a pulsating red light on top and a bank of blue lights underneath. They both observed strange markings, and then Sergeant Penniston touched the object and immediately received numerical mental images in a binary code, of which he later recorded in his diary. Number 8. Whitley Strieber, 1985. In 1985, author Whitley Strieber was vacationing in a remote cabin in upstate New York with his family when a sound awakened him in the middle of the night, at which point he found a small creature in his bedroom. 7 hours later, he found himself alone in the woods near his home with no recollection of what transpired. With the help of hypnotherapists, Strieber eventually recovered his memories of being taken into a UFO and probed anally and in the brain with a long, thin instrument. Strieber went on to write about his experience in a book called Communion. Number 9. Linda Cortile Napolitano. 1989. In New York City, Linda was seen just after 3 a.m. on November 30th, 1989, floating upwards from her apartment to a brightly glowing UFO, accompanied by 3 grey aliens. There were many witnesses, and 2 of them were New York policemen who had seen the abduction from a parked car, and later revealed there were security officers guarding an international political figure who was supposedly Javier Perez de Cuellar, Secretary General of the United Nations. Number 10. O'Hare Airport, 2006. In November of 2006, United Airlines employees at O'Hare Airport in Chicago reported seeing a flying saucer-like object hovering over Concourse C of United Terminal during rush hour. This was observed by pilots, airline management and mechanics who were shaken by what they saw, and they described it as a disc-shaped craft hovering above the airport. Nearby observers were later shocked as the object shot through the clouds at high velocity, leaving a clear blue hole in the cloud layer. The hole reportedly seemed to close itself shortly afterwards. As with previous UFO experiences, the Federal Aviation Authority stated it was clouds and failed to follow it up. Hey, make sure you subscribe. We publish new videos every Monday.